is actually possible, because what we see, and incremental changes have happened last year, they've happened 3 years before that, right? Can we do anything beyond incremental change? That okay, it goes from 7 lakhs to 10 lakhs, and that is also only if you invest in certain categories of products and you get maybe a 0.25% subvention in interest for a first time home loan. We're talking about small changes here and there. Can government do something bolder than that? Is it possible?
And Parth, we need that right now. Real estate is what builds wealth for most of us, our parents, for us. If we are getting wealthier, it's only by real estate mostly, right?
Yeah.
If people do not invest in real estate, they're not going to get wealthier. And the next generation, the generation which is 25, 30, needs to understand that investing in real estate will make them wealthier in next 10 to 15 years. And government needs to give impetus so that the limit needs to increase from 2 lakh to 5 lakh, the tax rebate limit. The interest rates needs to go down separately from housing loans. When the inflation is rising to great limits, government always increases the interest rates, and that increases the home loan interest rates, which is not good. Average home loan interest rate of 6.5–7% is very healthy for economies, which is there in most of the developed economies of the world. Singapore, US, Dubai, Europe, all of them are less than 5%. India is still at 8.5–9%.
Okay.
So these things need to be
so
taken
Bhavesh,
care of.
let me ask a very basic question. Right now, as an entrepreneur, okay, working in the real estate sector, all right, you will have employees, right?
Yes.
Now, those employees will pay taxes. Some of them will be
Yes.
contractual employees, some of them will be full-time employees. So actually,
Correct.
if the tax rates goes down, it makes your life easier, because then those guys are earning more.
They earn more,
for no cost to company to you. So what is the expectation are you seeing amongst the people whom you are paying salaries to? Do they feel irritated that, listen, I am an honest taxpayer, and what the heck? Where's my share of the pie?
Exactly. With the inflation going so much, tax going to around 35–40% at the end of it, then indirect taxes being so much with GST, trust me, nothing is left at the end of it. My employees are not left, I mean, hand to mouth, right? Of course, a lot of them. And then, of course, we support them with incentives, bonuses, those things. But that'll help a lot to the middle class.
Yeah, but you pay tax on all of those things, So
all of those things,
and yes, you should do good tax management, and there's certain allowances and expenditures we should write off. But let me put that question, and I'm asking the straightforward question, because let's face it, most of us are interested in that one point, and that's the point when we switch off the budget speech. So let me get Tarun Garg in on that. Tarun, the changes are happening. Okay, the tax brackets are different this year than they were last year. They're different from what they were 5 years ago. So the changes are happening. Of the 8 crore people Sharad Kohli mentioned who are now filing tax returns, almost 60–70% don't actually pay any tax. They just file a return and they don't come under a tax bracket. But can the government ever have the ability to do something bold, or is it just again incremental, a 0.25% here and a 50,000 rupees here?
So, well, see, this is the best opportunity for this government now that it's like 6 months from the earlier budget that was presented. So in July, when the full budget was presented, we were saying that, look, the government has not got enough time to prepare, but this is the right time. And then in the last budget speech, the finance minister, Sitharaman ji, she had already kind of called out that, look, there will be a flurry of changes. There will be new income tax act and the rules that will be framed. Definitely, there was a committee that was kind of formed up. And I think about 6,500 suggestions were received regarding how to overhaul the new entire Income Tax Act. So let's see how the
Tarun, it's great to talk about it. Okay, but okay, reality check. And Sharad Kohli started with this, so let me give it as upfront and blunt as it can get. Nirmala Sitharaman, as finance minister, is today going to tell you that the government is going to spend about 50 lakh crore rupees over the next 1 year. Okay, within that you will find out that about 20 odd lakh crore rupees of government's income comes from direct taxes. Half of that comes from individual taxpayers. The meaning is corporates. So the individual taxpayer, Tarun Garg, the 2% or less than 2% of the population pays for 1/4 of India's expenditure. Now, surely that's a broken system. Tarun.
No, absolutely. See, this is the best time for the government to make some bold moves, as my co-panelists have already called out. see, there is a big gap between that, say, 50 up to 15 lakh. There is a tax brackets that is there. But then the moment your income exceeds 15 lakhs, there is a straight 30% tax that is triggered. So definitely that there is a reason for widening this gap. And then this GDP rates that were kind of announced, or the growth rate that were kind of announced in the yesterday's economic survey, that is also pointing out there is a dip in that. So it's the best time that
Okay,
put in
so
some money.
just take that thought, Tarun, before I go to the others, and then I want to have slightly more detailed conversation, because we will have a sectoral conversation on drones and in space. But Tarun, why is that? Because it everything looks fine. I mean, the infrastructure spending looks great. I know the markets are a bit down right now, but that's a reasonable correction. The FDI, I know the forex reserves are slightly down, but they peaked in November, like a record high of $700+ billion. Everything looks great. The ports are being built, the airports are being built, the Vande Bharat Expresses are coming out. My neighbor took 6 years to build his house, but the Parliament of India was built in 2 years. Everything looks great. Why is it not showing up in GDP numbers?
See, from a consumption, see, Indian economy can't be untouched with the global scenario. See, globally, we see all the economies are not doing that well. But given the domestic sort of in India, the domestic scenarios, it is already kind of giving some impetus to the Indian economy. And now is the right time. I think put in some more money in the hands of the middle class individuals, thereby increase their spendings, and hence it will also boost in the supply, because there is a clear fillip that will be given to the economy by virtue of putting in money.
Okay, Sharad Kohli, it looks great. I can see you in a car. If you head on to a highway in any direction out of Delhi, and you're seeing, the bulldozers are out, the cranes are out, and rapid development is taking place. Why is it not translating? Why are we not getting above 7% GDP growth?
Okay, two reasons, Rishabh. One, this is cyclical.
Okay, I think we lost him. Okay, I'm going to get him back, but I want to pick up this conversation. Let me pick it up with General Bhatt first before I come and take up the drone sector, because this is fascinating. So General Bhatt, let's have a really interesting conversation away from the technicality of the launches and other projects which we generally talk about, because this is about money. Okay, so for people watching the broadcast, at the current moment, the space sector, which for most of you were never considered as a sector, it is a sector. Okay, it's a big deal. $6 billion is what the net revenue of the sector is every year. This is projected to go anywhere between 8 to 10x in the next 10 years. So it's going to be one of India's fastest growing sectors. But my question, General Dwivedi, is that when we look at the Indian Space Research Organization and we talk about Gaganyaan and Chandrayaan, and we think, oh, the government spends money, why does a country like India need to spend money? No, ISRO earns money also, because there are foreign parties who put satellites and ISRO has the rockets to put into space. It's not a lot. So it's about 4,000 crores in the last 10 years. So about 400 crores a year. Okay, that's monies that ISRO earns in foreign exchange and contributes to the government's expenditure. Okay, but there are private sector players. So General Bhatt, my question to you is, start with ISRO. What is the potential? I mean, how do we turn the few hundred crores a year into a few thousand crores a year of earnings?
So firstly, let me put it straight. As far as ISRO goes, the government is not interested in profits earned by ISRO. ISRO is more, and with a new policy very distinctly, it is meant to be there for R&D, that is research and development, for higher exploratory science, which they are achieving. They've had the Chandrayaan mission, and in future we'll have the Bharat Antariksh Station and a crewed mission to moon by 2045. So the expenditure on ISRO is not there for profits. But, the spin-off of what we spend for ISRO or with ISRO helps the private space industry.
Okay, so now hold your thought, because that's my next question. So now when we look at Pixel, or we look at Bellatrix, or we look at Agnikul, and there are so many others that are registered within space and so many that are growing, how many of these companies are pre-revenue? Is it all of them? Or are they earning monies?
We have just started, and quite frankly, the private space industry has not started earning money so far
Okay, so they're
significantly.
pre-revenue. Now, without naming companies, within the next year, is there a likelihood that some of these companies will actually start having their first clients and they'll start making money? I'm not saying breaking profit and all that, we'll come back later, but they'll start earning it, not just the R&D phase, because it's very expensive R&D. So that these companies will start actually earning money, they'll go past pre-revenue.
So the first companies which are going to earn money or have started getting some kind of revenue are the space application companies. Companies which are in the domain of insurance, companies which are providing EO data, that is electro-optical data, remote sensing data to to the defense or to various ministries for multiple use cases. They are the ones who have already started getting some
Okay,
revenues and will get
okay. So, for example, for people watching the broadcast, if you are the company like Pixel and you're putting, all spectrum, so infrared, ultraviolet, all, which is what Pixel does, and taking photographs of the Earth and providing those facilities, you are going to hit revenue faster. All right. Then there is the next one, which is the SpaceX from India, right? The person who actually builds a rocket to put it into space. Now, how far away are we there from actually having these rockets as a regular occurrence? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or longer, sir, General Bhatt?
I see at least a minimum period of 2 years
Okay.
because from suborbital launch, they have to go into orbital launch, and that too, they have to have more than one launch for orders to be there. In fact, the two leading companies, which I should name, Skyroot and Agricool, are both they have orders down the line as soon as they go orbital.
Okay, so these
So
are
this
companies that are building rockets that are going to put about 100 kilogram payloads into orbit. Now, one of them has done a test launch, the other hasn't. The test launch, as General Bhatt mentioned, is suborbital. You want to hit orbit. So, couple of years, okay, worst case scenario, 3 or 4 years. So, we are looking at about 4 or 5 years before these companies then start earning revenues because they have a proven launch capacity. So, the fulmination of this is going to happen in 4 or 5 years. General Bhatt, now what about unlocking value? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. If ISRO puts out just the data it has, the observatory data it has, and somebody then builds an application for the use of that data, how much value can be potentially unlock?
So, there are various figures which are there for this, but this has excellent potential because it is in applications where the money has to be. And to tell you about the whole uh, space economy, the big pie, apart from 2 to 3% for launch vehicles, 7 to 8% for satellites, rest of the money is in applications.
Okay,
So it
last
is a very large chunk of the space
Okay,
economy.
so my last question: are we seeing? So government is open to it. New space policy, all these new organizations, including the one, of course, which you are the Director General of, are here. The private companies are coming. They are getting access to ISRO like nothing else. I promise you that, to testing facilities, to R&D facilities, to launch pads. A new launch pad is being built in Tamil Nadu. So everything is going gung ho. Now my question to you is, but is there private equity, is there venture capital available to these companies, because they are expensive R&D places?
So far, in the last 3 to 4 years, except last year where it was about $79 million, before that it has been about $130 million, which have come from venture capitalists. There's a lot of excitement and faith from venture capitalists, but we also want incentives from the government. Last
Okay.
budget, we did get a 1,000 VC fund, which is going to get operative very soon. That will help startups to grow. But there is much more money required in the space
Okay,
sector.
so what do you mean
And
by incentive? Do you want grants in aid? What is incentive? Or do you want the government to say, okay, the first
yeah,
company to hit orbital space, you win the India X prize and you'll get $100 million? What do you want? What's the incentive?
so there are multiple things to start with: tax exemptions, a tax holiday for a certain period, like we do for any nascent industry growing, PLI incentives, GSTs, import duty, and of course rebates.
Okay.
And also, very importantly, grants and long-term loans are necessary for the sector to grow.
Okay, I know government is really committed to opening up this space. I know it for a fact. General Bhatt knows it as well. But we have to go gangbusters on this. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon is going to put up 40,000 satellites. And if Elon puts up 40,000 satellites, Jeff Bezos will also want to put up 40,000 satellites. And if Jeff Bezos does it, the Chinese will want to do it also. Then Mukesh Ambani will also want to do it. You'll have to put up lakhs and lakhs of these satellites. Lakhs of them. Okay. To the point where we'll have to start worrying about not only the governance of space debris, but the governance of near Earth orbits. So there's a huge potential out there. So we have to go gangbusters on this, on all the tax and the low interest loans which mature after 30 years. So be it. As you're watching Nirmala Sitharaman at the Vitt Mantralaya, that's ladies and gentlemen, South Block. The Ministry of Finance and yes, we are going to go through the procedures. No big trunks of papers anymore, which is a relief. There are iPads and everybody gets a PDF copy. So things have changed and will keep changing now. So let me just beg everybody's patience and pick this up conversation now with Arpan. Okay, so Arpan is running a company called Gamma Rotors. Okay, so Arpan, you are a young entrepreneur, a young founder. You picked the drone sector. Now, what's the difference between a company? Is there a drone sector in India? Because company, great, you know, you sell drones, but what is there a drone sector in India? Does it exist?
No, of course, a drone sector exists. There are 1,000+ companies today, and this industry has seen a rapid growth. And the reason for rapid growth is because, you know, what earlier helicopters were doing, now the drones started doing. So, you know, the industry has seen a paradigm shift because the cost of operations for a lot of applications have come down just because of drones. But nevertheless, we are a defense-oriented company. We only sell drones to the defense. And our agenda is to make, India the drone superpower. My personal agenda, or the company's agenda, is to do by 2030. You have the latest drones running, so that the foreign reliance on the drones, which where we are paying hefty amounts to the foreign players, that kind of gets eradicated. And like us, there are other drone players also who are investing very heavily. And what we expect out of the government is to just the ease of doing business. That is something which we are expecting in this budget. That when the budget comes out, the new tech space that it should go, because any defense-oriented companies, its survival is always very difficult in this industry. So to have that, the necessary help, necessary PLI schemes to be enhanced. If that happens, this industry.
Okay, I want to discuss this in detail with you. Okay. So I want to discuss this in detail with you, because you say, okay, 1,000 companies. How many, anecdotally, so this is your best guess, how many, because you've been doing this for 5-6 years now, of these companies, how many companies are just traders, that they go to China, buy the DJI drones and sell them in India for a margin? Okay, because there'll be a certain percentage of players who are doing just that. And how many are actually doing R&D, building their own drones?
So if I tell you how many are actually doing R&D, it would be only 25 to 30 companies actually who do it.
So the vast majority are just actually purchasing and they are reselling here. So a very small percentage are actually building drones. Is that roughly accurate?
You are absolutely right, because from ground up level, if you ask, then that is the actual number that I'm giving you.
Okay, you've seen the drones now even at the Republic Day parade. You saw it at the Army parade, okay? On Army Day. You learn from Ukraine, that's the future. All of us know it. It's staring us in the face. It's the drones. Okay. So this is going to be crucially important. So now let me pick on this without going into the details, which I'm sure you don't want to share, but just giving an overall picture. What kind of R&D are you capable of doing here? Is it software? Because is it on image stabilization? Is it on flying algorithms? What is it, soft R&D, or do you actually do R&D on hardware also?
Of course, if you're doing ground up development, you're doing R&D in software, you're doing R&D in optics, you're doing R&D in material sciences. And now, with the industry 2.0, you have latest manufacturing techniques. Like we have benchmarking partners with companies like Mark IV, Stratasys, and these are the companies which actually help you, make your imagination into reality, and the go-to-market strategies are also changed. So you need to actually use the technology of today to manufacture the technology of tomorrow. Never to mention 3D printing has played a very vital role for the drone industry as well as the space industry. That is something which we are adapting at the moment. So we are doing hardware as well as software. So it's just not one thing, because it's all interdependent.
So let me pick on that for a couple of more minutes, then I'll go back to my other guests for a more broader conversation. But this is really important. So now explain to people watching this broadcast, okay, what are the components does it take to R&D to build a drone, and not just a drone which is a cheap duplicate, but actually something that's better than what was before.
So basically, in R&D, first of all, that you need to do is you need to get reliability, because when you're sending it to the defense, reliability comes out of what materials do you choose to build it from, what electronic components, what is it shielding from, is it spoof proof, is it that what traces do those components have, are they manufactured in friendly countries? So you have to have all of that in place, because once you're putting anything into defense, it has to be it has to be foolproof from all angles, not just performance, but from every aspect to the component level as well.
Okay, so let me break it down. Ladies and gentlemen, in a drone, you're going to need a battery system. Okay, you're going to need a chipset system, which is how the drone is going to operate. All right, you'll need motors. You're going to require cameras, and you're going to require communication hardware. Everything else is software. Communication hardware is how is it linking or sending a feedback to wherever the remote station is. So now, in terms of battery, we don't really make very good batteries in India at any scale. I'm talking about lithium ion, lithium phosphate batteries. They don't happen. When it comes to chipsets, we don't make them in India. Okay, rotors, motors, we can. Material science of cutting edge materials, we are not the best at. Okay, despite the fact that we make Navy ships, we're not the best at. When it comes to even communication chips, we don't really make them in India. So now that makes the job of Arpan Ghosh, who has to put all these things together, really difficult. Okay, so Arpan, reliably, so that just because the drone is not made in China doesn't mean a percentage of its components might not come from China. Okay, so how difficult does this make your life?
So first of all, as per the policies, you can't get drones from China and sell it into India. You can't get components. Yes. And so on and so forth. But this is a problem that even the world is facing. It's just not India which is facing these issues. So there are other countries where India has good friendly terms. They've started developing. We at our facility have started developing. The scale is not that big at the moment. But then again, we can proudly say that, of course, we are making it in India. We are not getting it from countries, sharing land and water bodies with India, just to be correct that way. So, every component, every aspect that we make has to be, at par with the international standards. So you are right that today we are not doing it, but we've picked up small, and component by component we are building it. So tomorrow we not only want to be a drone company which is just making drones, but we also want to become a company where we are also making our own components, step by step, because these are very huge and heavily dependent onto R&D, battery manufacturing setup, maybe chipsets. You understand the amount of investment it goes in. So for even VCs to come and invest in us at that scale, it is going to take some time, but of course we'll be there.
Okay, so now that's the difficult part of the picture. Now let me give you the better part of the picture. The better part of the picture is India is starting lithium mining in Chhattisgarh. Okay, we're doing geological research currently in Leh Ladakh. Okay, so India's first lithium mine is about to start rolling. India's first lithium battery manufacturing companies in India have started rolling out. I know they're not gigawatt plants, but they started rolling out. So in 2 to 3 years, you will have lithium from India with lithium batteries being made in India, and hopefully by then you'll also have sodium ion batteries and others. Okay, and that's the component. And if it's made in India, great news for Arpan. Okay. Next, he's going to need the chipsets. He's going to maybe want to design his own chipsets, but somebody will have to fab them, and that's happening in Gujarat now. That's happening in the Northeast, where India's first fabricators are now being built. Now, they're not going to be fabricators at the level that which TSMC is operating, which is now 3 nanometers or 4 nanometers. They won't be there, but it will be good enough for what Arpan is. So, even if they come down to 20, 30 nanometers, they'll be good enough for what he needs. Arpan, one last question. So for people watching the broadcast and they see a drone, they probably see it at the shadi, okay, or at some kind of photo shoot. What are those drones? I mean, those drones are certainly not made in India drones, are they?
No, they are surely not made in India because again, the photographers operating it. If you sell them a made in India drone, it's anyways going to be way expensive than the Chinese drones that have entered into the market. So of course, they're not the real drones that are made in India. They're just they get it from places and they fly. So that's not the correct impression of the drone that we make. What we make in India.
Okay, last question. Okay, I'm sorry. I really want to get into this because it's fascinating. But on an overall picture, I know you can't share specifics with me, but when we talk drones in defense, there are UAVs which actually have missiles on them, right? And they can fire and shoot stuff, right? Then there are the kinds of jugaad things which have been done in Ukraine, that you take a drone and you, with a rassi, hang a grenade from it, and it's a suicide drone. All right, it's a cheap thing. You use it to blow up a tank. Are we looking at basically use cases on surveillance, or are we actually looking at fighting capacities? What's the future out there?
So the future is very simple. The forces are looking into surveillance. They're looking into drones with RCWS, which is remote controlled weapon system. Then they are looking at suicidal drones, which are which are kamikazes, and then they are looking at loitering ammunition. So these are the things. Plus, we're getting into non-contact warfare. So drone is of course going to play a very vital role.
Yeah, that's the future. And General Butt, can I get you to wear a different hat for a minute? Okay, in an era where the armored brigades and the tanks are now seeming superfluous, because it's all about pressing a button and either a missile hits the other side, or you send a drones. And he's mentioned loitering. Loitering is that if your drone has a long capacity, a UAV that can run for 24 hours, is just operating on that site forever, because you have no fatigue of any individual sitting on board that aircraft. You don't have any refueling problems. Drone warfare, sir, it's high-tech stuff. It's already here. So is there a drone industry here then?
Like Arpan said, there is a large gap between capability which the armed forces would aspire for and what is existing. And like very truly you said, the sources of most of the drones which are there belong to a country which we are not very friendly with. We have to be what Atmanirbharta, some place where it is definitely required is in the drone sector. And that has to manifest in chipsets, batteries, motors, all the components.
Yeah. So
work has started into this, and I'm very sure in a few years, with the incentives which the government is providing, we will have indigenous capabilities.
There are three things you need to nail. The chipset, most important, because that's where the security risk lies. It's not in the battery per se, it's in the chipset. So chipset you have to nail. Then you have to nail the battery, and number three is the material science. You nail these three things, and Arpan and company can write the algos. Okay, they'll figure out stabilization and all that. So that's what we're good at as a country, right? So we've got that sorted. But the first three things you need to sort out. I again repeat, if anybody who is in a position of policy, we need the chipset, we need the battery, and we need the material science, the composite materials that are going to make these light drones that can fly forever. We get these three things right, the Indian entrepreneur can do the rest. One Chinese company, DJI, 70% of the global market. Those are all the cheap drones that you see operating, and they're really cheap and they're really good. And that's the problem. Okay, that's the problem. Cheap and good. That's the problem why BYD is outselling Tesla in the Chinese market. So now let me get a different perspective and rope back Tarun into this conversation. Tarun, do we still have him? Okay, Tarun, now we are talking frontline sectors. Okay, now you is in a consultancy. Are you guys observing these things? Defense, space, drones, 3D printing, are you observing these things as future sectors?
No, definitely. See, these are the future sectors, and even in our consultancy divisions, there are separate sectors that have been kind of created, and different experts have been there to kind of address to this kind of a market. And definitely, and the reason major consultancy have created these sectors are because of the demands, because of the obviously the government's focus for investing into these sectors, and this is definitely a future. And as Arpan General Saab has called out, that see, lots of investments, focus of the government is there. We want to make in India, and this will not only just create India as Atmanirbhar, but also from an employment generation perspective.
Okay, but Tarun, I'm trying to ask, I'm trying to
Yes.
ask a different question. So help me out. Okay. So when you speak to people, right, and this can just be a personal anecdote, not the position of Deloitte, of course. But when you speak to people and they want to make an investment, right, everything you see right now is the guy trying to figure out the next Nika, okay, which are product oriented or retail oriented or app oriented. Are we seeing venture capitalists out there, both NRIs or Indians, who are going, what's the new coolest tech? The people, these are the people who say, that's the Satya Nadella who says that I'm going to put $80 billion into AI over the next 5 years. Okay. Are the VCs looking for the next coolest tech, or are they still looking for the next coolest product or retail or brand?
So tech is of course taking a step in the sense that most of the VCs are sort of really keen in investing into techs, AIs, and also into these drone sectors, space sectors. So definitely, Rishabh, you're right. So these are the sectors that are kind
so
of
they are looking. So now let me get a reverse perspective and get Arpan back in. Arpan, you might not be looking for investment. I don't know, right? But in the space, are you seeing people who are coming out, the big heavyweights, the guys who got the money and other venture capitalists, okay, the guys who do private equity placements, and they're going, whoa, bro, drone is going to be big, it's going to be $100 billion sector in 10 years because defense itself will be $100 billion, let alone the commercial place. These days, you can replace fireworks with drone shows. Okay, everybody eventually is going to have a drone in their house. It's inevitable that this is going to happen, right? So, are you seeing venture capitalists out there as excited about tech in India as they are in places like the States?
No, they are very much excited for sure, that is there, but only with the right company. So they do their all proper due diligence before they come and invest in you. And as a tech company, you're always looking for investments. It's like even if you have enough money, you'll be wanting more to create more, invest more into R&D, because it's a rapid growing industry where even the technology is not changing on year basis. It's month on month, and sometimes it's day on day. So it keeps depending. So the more money you raise, the better strength you build, because the better R&D, the better things you're able to get into the market. And of course, increasing the scale, you will be coming, but today, if I say, you just pointed out in your conversation that DJI drones are cheaper. Today, with our scale, we are also able to match the pricing and, get better or same quality, where the customer is not comparing the price anymore. So that can only happen when you have more money, scale, and, you'll have to keep raising money. Tech companies do work on that space. And of course, also give good returns to your investors.
It is possible, and economies of scale matter, right? Because 10 years ago, we decided as a country that we want to go LED bulb, okay? Makes a lot of sense. Nirmala Sitharaman on your screens arriving at the finance ministry. So it makes a lot of sense, right? So government of India said, you know what, we're going to go to the manufacturing sector in this country, and they say, we are going to place an order for 750 million LED bulbs. Who wants to set up a factory? And people came and set up factories, and now we have the cheapest LED bulbs in the world, okay? And pretty much everybody watching this telecast, pretty much everybody sitting on this telecast with me, if they look up, it's an LED bulb. It's happened so fast, okay? It's not an incandescent bulb, it's not a CFL, it's an LED strip or an LED bulb. So it is possible. Economies of scale do matter. That's what the Chinese are very good at. Now let me take a different perspective in from Dr. Anjali. Now Dr. Anjali is, of course, teaching economics. Now, Dr. Anjali, when we are talking about frontline education, and you said you want to see more investment in education, and I can tell you that people coming out of educational institutes, not necessarily the most employable. I have jobs available, I take interviews every week, and people who want to be journalists will not be able to tell you what India's GDP is, okay? And they want to cover the budget. And I find that very strange, because we've had 16 years of education. But I want to ask a different perspective to you. As educators, the front line in education is going to be what Arpan is doing, material science. It's going to be setting up 1,000 GPUs so that the students can actually experiment with LLM models. Are we seeing institutes do this kind of investment, or is it simply make a classroom, put a projector, get a teacher and hope for the best?
No, in fact, higher education has moved way beyond chalk and talk or even smart boards. Today, the national education policy also focuses a lot on providing skill based education. However, the challenge in front of universities today or in front of higher education institutions, in fact, is investment. Where do we get the funding to provide such skill based education from? So, the requirement is now twofold. One is that we need support from not just the government but also from the industry. And that is because we need to provide this education to the students who are the leaders of tomorrow. If you want Arpan's company to do well, on one hand, yes, we just now talked a lot about lithium, about the batteries, about the material sciences. What about the people who will do all this? You need to have skilled labor in the economy, and to provide that, I feel the academic institutions need to buck up and provide that kind of support to our students who are, of course, the leaders of tomorrow.
Okay, but are you
for
seeing this
that,
happen?
We need
Because
to establish, if I can just take
yeah,
10
please,
seconds.
please finish.
We need to establish centers of excellence, especially
That was going to be my
in emerging
question.
areas like artificial intelligence or the drone technology or space technology that we are talking about. So
Okay, so
that is
in
where
the
we are
biggest self-interest of the biggest industrialist, okay, so if you are Geo, all right, you already have the megahertz spectrum, you've got the apps, you've got the content, you've got the retail store, but you also want to make your own phone, why not? Okay, not buy it from China. You also want to make your own 6G equipment. You got to design it. You got to design the chips that are going to communicate at the high rates of pace that 6G operates. So, do you then go to MIT University in Pune, okay, which is actually a genuine bona fide? They do exchange programs with the guys in the US, okay. So, do you go there and say, I am going to make a center of excellence for communication technologies, I'm going to give you $100 million, and then the pool that you graduate every year, those are the people are higher, right? Is that happening, Dr. Anjali, where these guys are not going, not to give donation, not philanthropy? I'm not saying, oh, it's I was an alumni of this college, so I'm going back and sir, I will, aapke 10, you plant 10 trees in my name, and aap mujhse 1 crore le lijiye. Not that. I'm talking about people who want to invest with a self-interest. Ki, yeah, this labor is going to be ours. Are we seeing that happening?
Yes, we are definitely seeing a change where the industry now wants to give back to the academia, and we do have alumni who are coming back and helping us in setting up centers of excellence. If I speak about my own institution at MIT World Peace University, we do have a center of excellence in artificial intelligence, which is set up with the support of our alumni, of course. And they are providing, the center, of course, is providing a lot of education in the domains which are in the current demand in the economy. Especially when I speak about, there's a lot of conversation going on about space technology. I'm very happy to share with all of you that recently the satellite which was launched did carry a payload from the MIT World Peace University, which was developed by our students by themselves.
Yeah,
and
we interviewed those kids. Yes, I remember. Yes.
So it was a very proud moment where we are actually.
Okay, but ma'am, I'm the problem I'm seeing, and I take a lot of interest in these things. So the problem I'm seeing is that when we say Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence, we mean a room and a computer. Okay, are we talking that we have a server set up with with 100 GPUs capable of processing some LLMs? Are we realistically talking that?
We are moving in that direction, but as I said, we need support from the industry for that, because academia by itself will not be able to provide that kind of funding only from the fees that we are able to generate as revenue.
Yes.
For that, we need support, and not just from the government, because we are relying even on private investment from the industry. Government can, of course, provide support in the form of tax rebates to the industries which are providing this kind of support to academia.
Okay, so this is my question, right? What you need is a philanthropist, people out there watching this broadcast. You need to go to the universities and not give them a room and a pankha. Okay, you need to give them I'm going to give you 150 90 NVIDIA GPUs, all right, and I'm going to get you somebody who's going to tell you how to use them. Now you need muscle power of the hardware to get this done, okay, because that's what the future is, right? The LLM learning models and how they are adapted is human intervention. We are designing them, okay. We are teaching computers how to learn themselves, like teaching children how to learn themselves. But after that, it's the muscle power of the GPU that has to run those models into the trillions of computations. That is just the GPU. So don't go set up a building. Provide this infrastructure. So now let me put that thought to Arpan from a different perspective. Okay, Arpan, now when you are going in hiring people, right, there will be traditional sets of mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, electrical engineers. Okay, how many people are coming out with the particular skill set that you require, or are you basically trying to hire them and then you have to teach them what needs to get done?
So the model that we are working on is we have ties with a lot of colleges where we go and we hire, we get interns. We tell them you're going to be serious for next 6 months. We're going to hire you at this X value, which will be more than the market. So that is where you generate interest. But right out of the college, you're not getting mindsets who will just come and start working on the drone technology. Because what is being taught versus what is required as per the industry standards, there's still a very big gap. And as being in the industry, you would require more people to work, so you'll have to bridge that gap by teaching people how what to learn, what to unlearn, and learning and unlearning is a big process that goes into when you want to hire people in the drone sector or in this this space tech.
So now I'm just going to give a thought experiment, and Arpan, help me out here. A thought experiment. I'm going to wish you very well, and I'm going to wish that you become that $1 billion, $10 billion company, because the potential is there. If you get it right, the market is there. It's inevitable that this is going to happen in the next 10 years. Okay, so let's say you become the unicorn, right? And now you have money, and you want to invest in the ecosystem of human resource in this country, and we take you to the IIT Delhi campus. What is it that you would want to build there in terms of learning, a center of excellence in drones? What would you want to see them doing?
The first thing that I want to do is basically what is there in the industry, make that available so that whatever is happening, they already have it. And now from there, they have to build it above and how you can make a system better, faster, stronger, how you can reduce the power, how you can increase the power, reduce the area, means the size, and how the speeds are going up. So these are the actual areas that we want to work in, and we want to help a lot of institutes, not just IITs. There are other institutes that we work with, and we want to give them the money, the right platform, so that this eventually, where the industry and academia work hand in glove, things will go for a better thing.
So what you're going to have to do, Arpan, when we become a unicorn, okay, is go to, and don't go to IIT, okay, go to some other college, right? Everybody just goes to IIT. Go to some other college and tell them, I am going to help you set up a facility in which you can actually make your carbon fiber and mold it, okay? I'm going to actually get you the 3D printers in which you can do metal printing, aluminum printing, type, other kinds of metal printing. I'm going to get you the CNC machines. This is the stuff that the colleges need. It's not a camera with a fan, okay? This is the stuff that is required, right? Then you need the computing power, just the computing power to test, because I promise you, even in Arpan's industry, a large part of even the testing is not going to be a guy sitting in a field with a remote control. It's going to be virtual simulated testing of models, of airfoils, okay, of avionics. So all of this is going to be simulated testing. Computers will produce simulations to test the product. This is going to be hard compute power. So if you can think about it, go to the university near you and give them a bank of GPUs, guys, okay? That's what Trump and Nadella and Sam are doing, okay? And if you think that the Chinese have done some miracle, guess they've not, okay? The miracle tells you that the Communist Party is the best thing in the world. That's what DeepSeek says. Okay, now hang a second, we've done high tech. Let me come to the basics, because there is a truism that was started at the beginning of this conversation by Bhavesh Kothari, that you guys can discuss your drones and discuss everything. For the vast majority of us, the single biggest asset we have is our house. It's the truth. So Bhavesh Kothari, for many, many years, real estate was a headache in this country because there was a bubble. Too many projects not getting completed, people getting stuck, then we are in RERA and then this and that. Is that problem over? Can we hear him? PCR?
Hello, can you hear me?
Bhavesh, go ahead. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. So, Rishabh, exactly after RERA is where the confidence in under construction properties have come in. Under construction is the only way to invest in real estate and make money. Thank to the government that after RERA, I am able to give confidence to my buyers that, sir, this project is RERA approved. You don't need to worry because government takes care of everything else. In case there's a delay, in case there's a legal issue in the problem, none of those things were problem. I mean, pre-RERA, people would invest in land and they'll figure out, oh, land is stuck in litigation. Projects are not getting completed for 15 years and they've paid the entire money. All those problems have gone. Now, real estate is a major investment for a lot of people in middle class to build wealth. I mean, all the panelists over here, you yourself, me, whoever is watching has a real estate investment. They may not have investment in gold or stocks, equities, right? It's building us wealthier as the country is growing. So as you're talking about the GDP growing, it increases the real estate value, the real estate portfolio increases. Today, if somebody invested 1 crore by taking a 50 lakh loan and 50 lakh of their own savings, it's going to become 2.5, 3 crores in few years down the line, depending on how good the GDP grows. And that is where your next generation, what you pass on is a 3 crore of wealth, not just a 50 lakh, because you had 50 lakh and you made 3 crore out of it. You can use leverage in real estate, which you cannot use anywhere else. So real estate is very, very important, and government needs to focus on real estate as a sector.
So couple of questions. When we are saying it's important, okay, there'll be people who want to buy a house to live in. Then there'll be people who want to buy a house to flip. Then there'll be people who want to buy a house for long-term rental. All of these things, all of these things make up the market, right? So where is the market now? Are we seeing, is it still that, okay, the biggest buck is to be made in Bombay and Delhi, which are really big real estate markets? In Bombay, I mean, 1 BHK is crazy amounts of money. Or are we seeing it happen in Lucknow and Prayagraj and all the other places?
It has gone to multiple cities. So today you see the top developers of India, Godrej, etc. They are going to places like Lucknow, Indore, Surat, Jaipur. Now this is, the tier 2 cities is where a lot of demand for real estate is, and per square feet rate in these cities have touched 8 to 9,000 rupees a square feet, right? Which used to be 4,000 rupees a square feet. So of course there's a lot of demand in these cities. There's a lot of development happening in these cities. The infrastructure, the government, which is the infrastructure development which is happening thanks to government, is helping these cities grow and is helping the real estate grow, and in turn it's helping people grow their own wealth by investing in real estate, because real estate is land at the end of it. You call it apartments, you call it office spaces, villas, whatever, but it is land, and land is scarce. It will grow. Today a land which is 1,000 rupees a square feet will become 10,000 in few years. It may take 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, but it is bound to become. That's how history has been.
Okay. How does it pan out in high rises? Because if I buy an apartment in a high rise I mean, it's not a plot of land. So in 20 years down, 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, how does it become a generational opportunity? Because I have a plot of land, it's a generational opportunity. I can do whatever I want with it. I can't break down a high rise unless everybody agrees. So how is that a generational opportunity?
So, Shiv, a plot of land you cannot buy on your own. The developer will buy and build high-rise building because he's there to pay much more money for an acre of land in Bangalore.
But I get it. Like I say, if I own a house and a plot of land, I get it, right? I can hand it over to my children. But if I own an apartment, right, and the apartment building, who knows what the state of the building will be in 40 years from now, right? So how do we look at that as an investment?
Look at Bombay, then there's a redevelopment happening. So land, you get undivided share with every apartment building also, right? So if it's a 1 acre of land and there are 20 apartments on that, each of them, as government rule, gets an undivided share, which is 20%, 5%, 7% based on your papers, the land share in that. So when it goes in the redevelopment, you're still passing it on. However, we tell everyone to buy from renowned developers because quality, nobody compromises nowadays for the brand in renowned developers. So you have the best developers out there who are giving qualities for 50, 60 years. Nothing is going to happen to those buildings, right? We've seen building. I'm staying in a building which is 25-year-old, and it's amazing, right? So none of these things are a problem anymore. But you have to sell it at a certain point of time also.
Okay,
if it's an apartment,
okay. Couple of questions. I need to take a break. Okay, and I want to leave a last word with Tarun as well. So couple of questions. When we go abroad, right, we see houses available. Fine. You want to take a home loan? Great. You pay 2%. 3% interest on that home loan. What's the average home loan rate right now, as we are speaking, Bhavesh, for most ordinary people?
8%.
Okay, 8%. So 8%, if you got a good record, and you're lucky, 8% is what you're going to pay on average. Now that's a chunk of change. That's 4x what you would be paying in interest if you were in the US. So that's expensive. So my obvious question is, Bhavesh Kothari, what do you want from government? What do you want Nirmala ji to do in a couple of hours?
Please let us, all of us, buy houses, invest in houses, and build wealth. Reduce the home loan interest rates. Do not keep it with the normal FD rates or bank rates. Home loan interest rates have to be sub 6% so people can invest and build wealth for their future generations and not worry about the inflation and other things where at the end of it, you're going to save money for retirement, right? But I think real estate is the only way you can save and build wealth by the time you retire, and that home loan interest rate has to come down.
So I'm going to ask this question to Tarun. I'm assuming he thought this was the first and only question I would ask him, but I'm coming into right to the end. What are budget expectations, Tarun? What do you want to see from the finance minister?
So see, a lot has already been called out by Cooley ji and all. So, but see, I'll give you a different perspective. So I want an overhauling from a TDS perspective. While the rate rationalization has already been done, but my expectation would be, say, from an NRI perspective, a lot of if a buyer is purchasing properties from NRI sellers, then a huge, humongous task of taking a TAN number and all those things is there. So my suggestion would be you have to change it, align it with if you're purchasing that from a resident taxpayer. So that is one of the expectation, and also from the return filing. See, once you have to file a return within 30 days, I mean, you have to say e-verify it. So that's a very short amount of time for people who are sitting overseas NRIs and they do not have Aadhaar numbers, and OTPs could be a challenge. At least that time frame should be increased. Plus, for the salaried class, this 45-day window, once that Form 16 is issued, is pretty short. And most of the times there could happen that some of the incomes get overlooked within that 45-day window if you are earning incomes from, say, overseas and all. At least that time limit should be increased to, say, till August and all. Yeah.
Okay, so practical, devil in detail kind of adjustments. Tarun is not saying please just let's have no income tax in India. Okay, I was hoping somebody would say that, but we have a very pragmatist, realistic people here. I would have said it, no income tax. Let's do one up on Trump. Make the world's first country that abolishes income tax. Wouldn't that be nice? We are all smiling. We're all laughing because we know that's not going to happen. All right, I'm going to take a break. See you guys in a minute. Thank you to all my guests. It's been a very interesting conversation across the board, in detail and larger picture. Back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.